I now have a Patreon, so click the link in the description to find out how you can be a part of my redesigning process. When it comes to the human side of the weapons in Halo, things get a bit confusing. Despite taking place 500 years into the future, the weapons of the UNSC are quite conventional, and some even look a little outdated by our standards. But at the same time, they all have this certain flair to them, something that makes them recognizably Halo. And seeing as the new Halo series that just released features some real-world weaponry, I thought this would be the perfect opportunity to try something new on this channel. What if actual real weapons existed in Halo? What would they look like? It's time to expand the arsenal. Greetings, Redesign here. In this episode of Expanding the Arsenal, we're doing something a little different. Instead of coming up with brand new designs, I wanted to try and take some of our real-world weapon designs and quote-unquote Halofy them. In this video, I'll cover 5 quite iconic designs, and also show some different setups we could see if they'd ever show up in a Halo game. My lovely patrons and my Discord mods not only helped me pick out which weapons I'd cover for this episode, but also heavily impacted the final designs. So if you're interested in working with me on my future art projects, check the link to my Patreon in the description. The Lorekeeper from my Discord staff was yet again kind enough to come up with some lore for these weapons, so a huge thanks to him. And a quick note before we begin, all the original designs for this episode were captured from Call of Duty Warzone, to make sure they all had the same quality. Without further ado, let's begin. When it comes to bullpup rifles, none are as iconic as the STG-77, or as it's more commonly referred to, the Steyr AUG. This firearm really stands out with its sleek, yet rounded and almost organic design. Instead of the more usual complex design, the entirety of the AUG, except for the barrel, magazine and scope, is just one connected body, making it very clear and recognizable. To Halofy the AUG, I knew I wanted to keep the green color scheme, to pay tribute to weapons like the Spartan Laser and the Hydra. I also wanted to rework the integral optic to make it a little bit more modular. Designed by Chalyb's Defense Solutions before the fall of Meridian, anyone looking from the outside in would see an easy-to-use, ergonomic weapon that was readily delivered into the hands of peacekeepers and ex-military refugees. In actuality, after thousands of Chalyb's reproduction AUGs were found in the hands of insurrectionist groups, the UEG ordered an investigation into the Chalyb's finances, which was still underway when Meridian was attacked by the Covenant. This modern take on the AUG platform uses 6mm Creedmoor rounds, giving it a hefty punch against any target. While staying true to the original design, it's clear I've made some big changes to it. As a whole, the design is more compact. It utilizes a magazine well similar to that of the battle rifle and the DMR, making the magazine less prominent. The other big change was the removal of the integral optic, which was replaced by a BR-esque carrying handle with a separate scope attached. The connected body was also redesigned to be more taken apart and disconnected. In the same fashion, I added a cheek rest to break up the clean area around the stock. And finally, as requested by one of my patrons, I give it a foregrip similar to that of the one from the Spanker rocket launcher. If you want to mix things up a little, why not remove the scope? And maybe even try adding a new type of foregrip. The Halofied AUG is still very much the AUG design we all know and love, but just a bit more militaristic and modular. Let me know what you think about this design. While not actually being a specific gun, The magnum has sort of become the term for a generic revolver, especially in Call of Duty, where it's made several appearances. And as we all know, there's another magnum in the world of video games we all love, the M6 series from Halo. Despite its name, the handgun we see in Halo is far from the magnum revolver in our time. So let's change that. Hannibal Weapon Systems took the opportunity presented by other manufacturers to produce a cheap line of portable railguns, with power rivaling Acron Security's own ARC-920. Hannibal did not, however, go through the trouble of donating the profits to refugee organizations, or even provide large numbers to them. The UEG, while not able to press charges against Hannibal, publicly denounced the line, and stated that by ignoring the purpose of these reproductions, they were, quote, doing a great disservice to humanity in its most dire time of need, end quote. This portable handgun utilizes a rotating cylinder of 6 .357 Magnum rounds, with an updated chemical propellant and powerful magnetic coils lining the barrel. Being constructed by Hannibal Weapon Systems, this Magnum is not your everyday revolver. To reflect that, I made sure to give it a more personalized and less militaristic look. But to make sure this will look unmistakably Halo, I gave it some classic features such as a large trigger guard and a laser attachment. To, once again, make it more modular, I added both a top and bottom rail, as well as giving it the Halo Reach Magnum grip to make it more fit the time period. But to still keep it true to the source material, I kept some aspects of the design, such as the hammer and the iron sights. If you're more in the mood for sniping, then why not try a long-range build for the Magnum? The Magnum, now more than ever, lives up to its reputation, but still surprises you with its unorthodox mechanics. Let me know what you think about this design. When it comes to submachine guns, this is as classic as it gets. The German MP40 owes its recognizability to the unique design choices made to this weapon. Unlike most SMGs today, the MP40's magazine is strangely enough placed towards the front of the weapon, instead of placing it closer to the trigger. Now, believe it or not, the MP40 has already made an appearance in the Halo universe, but I want to make my own modernized version of this classic SMG. Weapon Systems Technologies was the first manufacturer to recreate an ancient weapon design for refugees. The purpose behind the reproduction MP40s was to provide an easy to manufacture, easy to use, and effective weapon into the hands of colonists in order to provide protection from the Covenant invasion. The MP40 was specifically chosen over other easy to manufacture weapon platforms due to the historical implications, with the weapon being a reminder of humanity's previous darkest time, in order to show that they would always recover. This modern reimagining of the MP40 utilizes a modified 9mm cartridge with a chemical propellant that is slightly weaker than other modern firearms, a cost of the expedited production. While the MP40 has been changed quite a bit, a few parts still remain. The body of the weapon, while modernized, keeps the metallic and smooth look of the original. But to, again, make it more modular and modern, I added a rail to the top of it with glowing red iron sights for an aggressive look. While the trigger and the grip saw little to no change, the stock was replaced with a more classic M7S collapsible buttstock, as requested by one of my patrons. Now, as for the more drastic changes, the magazine saw quite an overhaul. To make it a little more compact and modern, I tilted the magazine and made sure to enlarge the magazine well and have it be used as a proper foregrip. And as a final touch, I made the magazine see-through, similar to that of the VK78 Commando. And if you feel like running and gunning, why not try the close quarters build? While you could argue the MP40 lost its character with the new tilted magazine and the modernized aesthetic, you gotta admit, it's pretty badass. Let me know what you think about this design. Known for its small size and impressive fire rate, the design of the MAC-10 definitely goes by the rule of less is more. If you boil it down, it basically consists of two shapes, one rectangle horizontally and one vertically. This straightforward design makes it a perfect fit for Halo's art style. But what if we went even further with the classic Halo look? Modeled primarily after the venerable frame of the MAC-10, with a few modern influences mixed in, this weapon was not released to the market for sale. It was donated to refugee militia services and colony police forces to serve as a cheaper and lighter alternative to the M6 series sidearm, which can injure the user without proper training. The MAC-10 was designed to use a modified version of its 9mm cartridge that makes the best use of modern weapons technology. Right from the get-go, it's clear I gave the MAC-10 the magnum treatment. Call me lazy, but I simply ripped the grip straight out of the Halo 3 Magnum, which weirdly enough worked. To go along nicely with the unconventional look, I also went ahead and gave it a chrome finish, similar to that of the Magnum. And finally, I of course made it more modular with rails, as well as a pair of M90 style iron sights. And if you're on the lookout for something more subtle, why not try the silenced build, with the classic wire stock. The MAC-10 saw very minor changes, but the new coat of paint and the oh so recognizable grip makes it undeniably Halo. Let me know what you think about this design. And finally, we've come to the weapon you've all been waiting for, the AK-47. While being the most used rifle in the world, the design is also very much responsible for the popularity of the Kalashnikov. The mix of metal and wood makes this firearm one of the most recognizable out there. So to halofy the AK, it's important I keep the defining aspects of the design, while simultaneously modernizing it. Misraya Armory initially designed the reproduction AK platform rifles as a cheap and cost-effective way to raise money for donations to refugees. By manufacturing a small number of relatively cheap firearms, they were able to auction them off at incredibly high prices and take a measly 20% cut of the profits. The series was a massive success for the company and served to greatly improve how they were viewed among humanity. This new AK is chambered in the venerable 7.62x51mm cartridge, made famous by the MA5 line, and has its classic 30-round banana mag. So taking a closer look at this design, we can see a lot of nods to the classic Halo weapons, such as the battle rifle and the Halo Reach assault rifle. The front of the gun now features a new grip and a more metallic finish, while still keeping the two holes from the original. The stock is probably the biggest change here, going for something a lot more modern and conventional. And taking some inspiration from the VK78 Commando, I've added an ammo counter on the side of the AK, requested by my patrons. If you're looking for something a bit more long range and heavy, why not try the classic bipod and optic? The halofied AK-47 is just that, the AK in a halo coat of paint. The metallic look and stripe gives us a familiar Reach-y look. Let me know what you think about this design. And there we have it. That's all the weapons I halofied for this video. Some seeing huge changes, while some only receiving a new grip. But hopefully, they all look a little more Halo now. Which one is your favorite? And let me know if you want more content like this. And again, if you want to be a part of my redesigning process, check out my Patreon. Speaking of Patreon, I want to thank my Spartan 2s. That one guy, D Marshmallow, Diehard Cult 3, Ripcorded, and Hitsuyona Kurorento. And my Spartan 4, Andrew Dyer. If you liked this video, give it a like. If not, a dislike. And let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I wish you all the best, and take care. Vernissage